Yes, Rob, we're live.
All right. How's everybody doing out there today?
I think everybody's doing well. I know I am. Like we mentioned before, we can only focus on the things that we can control.
Absolutely.
How has your day been so far?
It's been pretty lively so far. I've dealt with a handful of files that were on fire. I put most of them out. I've got one waiting for me as soon as we leave here, but that's just the nature of what I do. It's another day in paradise, right? I've got my health. I'm happy. The people I love are safe. What more can I ask for?
Absolutely. So, real quick, tell us a little bit about what you do.
So my name is Rob Roldan. I am a state licensed appraiser out of Michigan. I've been in the business for 18 years, licensed for 15. Currently, my role is Escalations Manager and Senior Staff Appraiser with Class Valuation. And I've been with the company 6 years. I've been in this role for roughly 5. And my job here runs the gamut of everything that we see come through the door. If you have a file that's on fire or a problem, typically it comes to myself or the team that I manage. That's pretty much it in a nutshell, and everything in between. I mean, every kind of problem you could imagine when it comes to appraisals, it's come across my desk at one point or another.
Got it. Are you seeing escalations here right now in this, or has it gotten a chance to make its way yet, or is it more or less as usual, like in regards to escalations?
I have to say it's been pretty much business as usual here. We've seen some challenges with the virus, but we also see that the investors, the secondary market, the GSEs, are stepping up to some degree with adaptations to their products. So we're seeing desktop products come in to the picture, and we're seeing exterior only inspections are making their way. And that's probably the smartest call, right? With everything that's going on right now, everybody under the sun is saying the social distancing is important. And I think we're seeing the results of what happens if we don't go along with that. So it's very important that we balance the health of everybody involved. Really, at the end of the day, that's our biggest concern, and it's recognized again at the highest levels, and the GSEs are stepping in to make accommodations for what's happening around us.
Understood. So, you're a subject matter expert. Again, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to help us out. But as we've discussed, and we know, it's super important to bring on the experts so that we can, our relationships have the very best information, can make the best decisions, and also everyone's informed. As we talk the changes and such, just real quick before we get into the reason why we're here to talk about the reconsiderations of value, you quickly tell us, or as much as you can, that have occurred and what that really is to us. And so today, our audience could be anyone, but largely I've invited realtors and other loan officers that are in, and this could apply to consumers as well. But what are the recent changes?
So the recent changes are that, again, Fannie, Freddie, and FHA are allowing for exterior only inspections to take place. Now, it's on a case-by-case basis to some degree. It's not wholesale. I'm sure that there's guidelines that I am not aware of because I'm not an expert at writing loans. I'm an expert at appraisals. But what's come down to us is that in certain circumstances, if we have an issue with the virus, an appraiser can do a drive-by inspection, exterior only. And in other instances, I believe if it's strictly for purchases, there can be a desktop appraisal performed where the appraiser doesn't leave the office at all. They're going to be relying on data that's coming from a third party. This isn't an area where most appraisers are going to feel comfortable, But
Yeah, I was going to ask, are you even comfortable? Because you're an appraiser, right?
yeah, I am.
You're
I
like,
am. Yep. And
yeah,
I just came in from the field recently. Up until a few months ago, I was actually still out pulling my tape measure. I've just been so busy lately that I've stepped away from going out and doing my own inspections anymore. Um, but as an appraiser who's going out there and performing the function, I mean, you've got a lot of concerns. You got a lot on your mind. You're walking into a stranger's home. First of all, that's always going to be a unique situation. But now, when you tack this onto it, where you aren't sure there's health or safety issues that could be involved for you personally, that just adds on another layer of stress, you know. And again, everything's moving so fast, and the situation's so fluid that it's taking a little bit of time for some of the appraisers to come on board, for some of the audience probably too to come on board with everything that's happening. And you know, we're pretty much going through a whole new way of doing business to some degree here, right? I mean, normally this would be something, this meeting right now would be something that I would actually fly out, right? We'd probably all be sitting down having lunch, finishing a drink, and just talking amongst ourselves. But for the near future, that option's off the table. So we make do with what we've got.
right, right.
Mhm.
Understood. And then so when with the reason why we're here is to talk about reconsideration of value, because you remember last week I called and I said, Rob, you know what, man, I think I want to kind of nix this whole thing and just pivot and talk about something completely different, because COVID is rampant, and everyone wants to hear about here and now. Like, what are the appraisal changes, and how does that affect our business and how we operate?
Mhm.
And then you made some very good points that helped me realize how important it is more than ever now to understand how to provide documentation to do reconsiderations of value.
The basics, the fundamentals are going to become more important than ever. Um, and I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what the future holds, right? But from my perspective, I can see a situation coming up in the very near future where we're probably going to run into a month or two here of a real slowdown in sales. For the appraiser, data, and by that I mean sales data, is the only thing that really matters to us. It's what we hang our hat on. That's everything to an appraiser. And when you don't have sales, you're forced to use what you have, which might be older data, sales that might have come from the peak of last year, or even rolling into, and I'm going to assume most folks here are East Coast, Midwest. Would that be fair to say, or do we have folks all over the country with us still?
Well, it's hard to say, but I would say largely East Coast,
Okay.
in the Washington D.C. Vicinity.
Okay. So
So
there.
yeah, Maryland, Virginia, D.C.
Okay. So seasonal factors are probably less of an impact than they are here in Detroit, but there's still some of it going on, I'm sure, right? People probably aren't as happy to go house hunting in, around Christmas time or in the winter and this during the holiday season as they might be in the spring and the summer. And again, if we are impacted by this through spring and summer, where people just want to kind of tighten the purse strings a little bit, or um, the traditional way of going out house hunting isn't available to them, that's I have to assume that that's going to lower the amount of sales data that would be available to the typical appraiser. And that could also create a situation where there might be a shortage of inventory. People don't want to put their homes on the market. They don't want the chance of people walking through their home, strangers coming in. I mean, if you think about that, right? Um, there's a whole host of challenges here. And if at the bottom line, if we don't have homes selling, then appraisers are going to have to use older data. And that might not reflect what people are willing to spend in the here and now, or in the 30 days to 60 days to come. So understanding what an appraiser is looking at when they're pulling their market data or their research. And again, I'm just going to do a from on high, right? Each market's unique in its own right, but um, we we want to remember the fundamentals and the basics. If you know what an appraiser is looking for, you're going to have a better job of reading through that appraisal, understanding what you're looking at, and knowing what to look for yourself if you don't feel that the values come in at a reasonable price point.
Right. Help us understand what specifically are appraisers looking for. In my world, with the lenders, we typically look at the page that tells you the value, and we look to see if it's as is or subject to, and we look at the class and maybe scroll through the pictures to make to see what the property looks like. But like,
Right.
what are the appraisers looking for?
That's
What
hilarious. Yeah, I totally get it. Most clients that I talk to, the first thing they do is go to the bottom of page 2 or 3, right? They just want to know, what did it come in at? As an appraiser, I'm spending 4 hours putting together a lot of commentary and data for you so that you can understand how I came to my decision. That's one of the fundamentals. Just take the time, especially if we're all experiencing a little bit of downtime and you can afford to, actually pick up an appraisal and read through it. Not all appraisers are created equally, right? You're going to have, just like any other industry, right? But if you know of a good appraiser in your markets, and I'm sure all of you do, open one of their reports and actually take the time to read through it. Look at the things that are impacting the appraiser's thought process. If they're a good appraiser, they're going to put all of that into the report for you. And again, each market's unique. So I can't speak specifically on any one area or neighborhood, but from on high,
what would you say the top 3 things are that the appraisers look for? Like, what information impact the report?
the one thing that we all learned from day one: location, 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 right? That's always going to be the first thing that that drives me. And because it drives most people, the typical buyer, they're going to move to a neighborhood that they know that they want to be in. And there's not going to be any way around that. They're going to be either close to family or friends or relatives, or they're choosing a home for a specific school district. If we have real estate agents out there, this is already stuff that like the back of your hand. But I know a lot of the loan officers know that as well. Again, our entire industry is based on those 3 words, right? Location, location, location. It's no different for me as an appraiser. Once I key in what my neighborhood is, the neighborhood boundaries have been established. And again, as an appraiser, you want to put yourself in the mindset of what the typical market participant or buyer is doing, what's impacting them, what's influencing them. So if you just start to think through that as if you were buying a home, what are the things that you're going to look at? You're going to go location. You're probably going to think about, how big is this place? Is there going to be enough room for myself and 2.2 children and a cat and a dog? How many bedrooms does it have, right? Obviously, that can have an impact. That's kind of a unique situation in itself. But again, if you think about what your typical buyer is looking for, that's what the appraiser is going to be looking at too. Obviously, things like view can come into play. Obviously, condition and quality are big too, right? So those are the main ones.
Got it. And then so like with the reconsideration of value, for the realtors and loan officers and even the consumers that are listening, why is that important? So number one, what is a reconsideration of value? One, and then secondly, why is it important? Like what does that do?
So the reconsideration of value is just that. You're sending alternate data to the appraiser in hopes that maybe they missed something, or there were some sales that somehow were overlooked, or in some cases, an appraiser might just need to kind of broaden their horizons a little bit. I mean, we're all professionals. I'm going to assume most of us here are professionals. We understand the process to a degree. We might not all be appraisers, but again, it should be easy for us to put ourselves in the mindset of the typical buyer. If you're reading through the report and you see, well, the appraiser's using sales that are in school district B, we're in school district A, the reconsideration process allows you to open the door to ask those questions, because you can't just reach out to the appraiser and call them. That doesn't fly these days. So the ROV process is the conduit. It opens the door for those questions to be asked. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. The process itself is, I can't speak for other companies. I don't know what other AMCs might be doing. I can give you some insight into our processes. We run a very tight ship here. Some of you may have very well tried to process a reconsideration and noticed that you got feedback from us. We try to scrub the data. And again, we're not geographically competent in, say, DC um, or Baltimore or New York, right? Um, we do have people from all around the country, but we never claim to be geographically competent in any market, but we are masters of method. So to give an example from on high, your home is in a beautiful subdivision and you think it's worth $500,000. Well, the only homes that are selling for $500,000 are on the golf course. Um, that might be a wake-up call, right? That might be an instance where the data that you've sent to us might not be as relevant as originally you thought it was. At that point, we would offer you feedback and say, hey, we've received the data. We appreciate that you've sent over requests. Clearly, you have concerns with the report and its results. We'd like to help you. The data that you've sent over might get rejected outright by the appraiser due to a golf course view. The subject doesn't have that. Is there anything more relevant that you can send over? I can't stress enough that we are not trying to get in the way or slow you down in any way. Our policy is one reconsideration of value, so we want to make it the best possible shot. That first go around, we want it to count. It's got to count. So we offer feedback, we sift through the data, and again, we try to make sure that the request is strong and reasonable as it can be, while staying compliant with industry standards. That's rule number one here.
Right. And what data? So you mentioned data, like what would I send to you? So for instance, I don't agree with the value or I need clarification on it. My appraised value came in low. What type of information do we need to give you in order to help with the, going back to the appraiser to do the reconsideration?
The data that's going to be most relevant, really the only thing of relevance, are closed MLS sales. Now I get a lot of requests come over that have sales that are coming off of Zillow or some other data source. If you can confirm that that property sold through the MLS, then we're fine. But if it did not sell through the MLS, we're probably going to have a lot of difficulty getting the appraiser to consider it. And the reason behind that is there has to be multiple verification sources of the information. As an appraiser, if I'm going to use a particular sale, I need to be able to confirm the terms of the transfer. I need to know if there were $10,000 in concessions or a $25,000 gift at closing, or if there were 2 Cadillacs in the garage when it sold, or if it had gold-plated fixtures or diamond-encrusted doorknobs. Those are things that you can't, and I'm exaggerating to some degree, but I'm trying to stress the point. Those are the kinds of things that a simple public record search can't get you. And when you're dealing with the MLS, you have a licensed professional that you can call and say, hey, it's Rob. How you doing, Jack? I just wanted to know what went on with this sale. It looked a little weird. It was on the market for 120 days. That's outrageous in this market. Was there anything going on with that place? Anything I should know? It's very important for the appraiser to have that verification source. I lost you there for a second, Shawn. You're back though.
Oh yeah, you're still there. No worries.
Okay. So
closed MLS sales.
Absolutely. Listings,
what else?
pending sales. I get a lot of that too. People send over MLS listings and pending sales. Our world revolves around closed sales. You can think of a pending or an active listing as maybe a ceiling for value, right? Because it's an event that hasn't taken place yet. As an appraiser, I can't really lean any weight on that. Again, it's the closed data coming from the MLS that counts.
Okay. What else are you guys looking for?
So again, if I were to put together a successful reconsideration request, something that might actually affect a change. Again, the first thing that I would look to would be location. And then I would, of course, look at GLA. Most appraisers, and again, I say this is a very broad brush that I'm painting with. I can't stress that enough. If you get into rural areas or unique properties, a lot of this stuff goes off the table a little bit, right? Because you have to branch out and you have to think outside the box as an appraiser. But for most properties in standard conforming neighborhoods, you're looking at that neighborhood. You're looking for sales that are similar in size, GLA, gross living area. Usually an appraiser is going to go between 20, 25% at the high end of a variance off of whatever the subject is, right? So that's something to keep in mind. If you have a 1,000 square foot townhome, you don't want to send over a 2,500 square foot ranch, right? That's probably something that is going to get rejected outright. So again, if you just try to keep your sales as physically similar to the subject property, you're going to have your best chance with keeping it apples to apples. That's what I always tell people. You might have green apples sometimes or a red apple, but let's try to keep it an apple.
Understood. So what I'm taking away from this is when we stress to our agents, our realtors, location and MLS sales, those are the two key major factors that would be considered for this reconsideration of value.
One of the best pieces of advice I can give to any real estate agents out there is if you run into an issue, take a look at the data that you use to price the property, right? And this goes out to the listing agents. That's going to be some of the best material, right, that's available. That's the information that I want to get in front of the appraiser. Look, the licensed professional who marketed this property and put it out there for sale considered these data points as being most relevant. What do you think? Right? And keep in mind, we can't force an appraiser to make changes to a report. Nobody from class appraisal is going out and measuring this property or taking the photos. We can't physically change the report in any way. But what we can do is get relevant information out in front of the appraiser and see what they respond with.
No, it's good. That's really good information. Good info. And then so how does this typically work? Like, and we're going to let you go after this because we try to keep these calls in anywhere between 20 to 25 minutes or so. Okay. And I think it's great information. We're getting a lot out of it. How do you suggest when we want to submit a reconsideration of value to go about doing that? What's the best way to submit?
Okay, so the best way to submit it is through our portal or our website. And I can get you more information offline on this one, Shawn, and you can get the data out to whoever you need to. We have a form that you can fill out, or you can fill it out through our portal, Appraisal Scope. We try to keep the process as easy and streamlined as we can. To give you an idea, right now, our turn time for a reconsideration request is sitting at 0.85 business days. So less than one business day, we have these turned around for you. From the moment that you send it over to when the report comes back to you revised, less than a day.
Wow. So we'll have an answer. The realtor puts together the comps. We submit it through your portal. We'll have an answer within a day.
On average, yeah, less than a day. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
wow.
You're right. Now, keep in mind, we've streamlined this process. We've got it down to about a science, right? Again, I can't stress enough, our main concerns are making sure, one, that things stay compliant. If you have an issue with an appraisal, reach out to us direct. One of the things that convolutes the process and makes things more difficult is when we have obviously, loan officers know it's not the best idea. But when we have loan officers or real estate agents reaching out to the appraiser direct, a lot of appraisers get defensive real quick because they know the rules and they know they shouldn't be getting those kinds of phone calls or communications. So I would say keep everything through the system, get it over to us as quickly as you can, use physically similar properties that have closed on the MLS, and we'll get that stuff in front of the appraiser, right? And follow through as quickly as possible.
That sounds good. And Rob, do you have any parting words for us today?
I just want to say, Shawn, in the discussions that we've had leading up to this, I think what you're doing is outstanding, sincerely. You told me about some of the other podcasts that you've done, or the other meetings that have taken place, and I just think it's outstanding, and not all of it revolves around our pocketbooks, but also it sounds like some of it's coming from your heart and making sure that the people that you work with are taking care of themselves, and that's what matters more than anything right now. So I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me and bringing me on. I really do appreciate it. We all appreciate it here at class.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot. There's nothing, not call it a transaction, I suppose, right? So without the client, the borrower, nothing happens in our deals, right? Nothing happens. So
this whole business just spins around communication, right? That's really, at the end of the day, is all it's about. And hopefully you get more positive than negative, and we keep things moving along, right?
Right. So the customer's everything. And so we also need to be sure that we understand, like you mentioned about communication, how to clearly articulate ways in which we move through the system to come up with a winning strategy. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Hope you all, where you are, you're in Detroit.
Yeah, we're in Metro Detroit. We're headquartered in Troy. We have a satellite office in Denver. We have folks from all around the country, though. We have folks in Baltimore. We have people in California, Florida. Let me keep thinking about it. Arkansas. No, I'm sorry, Alabama, Pennsylvania. I'm serious. We've got folks all around the country that work for us. So, yeah.
Wow. Be safe. Try to stay as healthy as you can, but definitely be safe, and telling everyone to stay in the house. And so, Rob, I really appreciate your time today. Like I said, I'll let you go. And if there's anything I can do to help you in any way, just, don't hesitate to reach out.
Likewise, Shawn. And the same goes for all the folks out there. If there's anything that you feel I can do for you, or if you have an appraisal related question, quality, don't hesitate. Reach out. I'm Rob at class. I'm the only Rob there. So if you call class and say I need to talk to Rob, everybody will know where you need to go. And I always pick up my phone. So I'm happy to help out anytime I can. I will get you some data offline here too, Shawn, so that maybe you can get that out to the larger group, the form and some of the contact information. That'd be great if you pass it on. Again, I'm always happy to help, and I'm here for you if you need me.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
All right.